morning, it's Randytbird out here in Arizona on a Sunday morning, coming to you with my weekly video. Hope you all are doing well. It's a beautiful day out here in Arizona, no clouds, no rain, not until first of the week anyway. A little cool this morning, but much better than it has been. We had a pretty chilly week for us. We had temperatures in the 30s, even had ice on the windshield of my car in the morning. That's unusual, but temperatures have been below normal all month here in Arizona, out here in the desert. But today's a nice day. I think got all the running around done, and the work week is over, so I can get out on the bike. So out running around on the Sportster yesterday, and not much, just run around, check out a few shops, do that back and forth stuff, and look at some bikes, and this kind of life. Other than that, things have been pretty quiet around. Just been seeing more of the new bikes out there, and yeah, I have to admit that the new Harley release was a little underwhelming. They must have something planned here. The 120th anniversary bikes, I haven't seen one of them yet, but they look pretty good in pictures, and I'm sure that they're going to be popular amongst the people with let's call it people of means, because they're going to be expensive. So yes, everything is expensive these days. I mean, all you gotta do is go to the grocery store to see that. I mean, eggs is ridiculous. I'm not crazy about eggs. I eat them now and again, but wow. I guess that's because of the avian flu or something of that nature. Who knows? I'm kind of a news and events junkie. I listen to the radio all day. I stay away from talk radio because that'll just get you wound up. Yeah, everybody's got their opinions, and they all seem to be extreme these days. So anyway, I just like to know what's going on. Not that I can do much about it, but still like to know. Out here in Arizona, at the end of March is Arizona Bike Week and Cave Creek Bike Week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any time off to do much of that stuff, but I might. Having started a new job, I'll be there about 4 months at the time. Maybe I can get a day off during the week and go do something. And I'm not big on the Scottsdale stuff, but there's a lot going on. There's rides and there's whatever stuff, and I might check that out if I can get the day off, or I'll do the Saturday thing. So there's always stuff going on that time of the year, because it's just beautiful out here in April, just absolutely gorgeous. So I had a viewer ask me what was a good time to come to Arizona, and I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, not in June, July, and August, unless you're going to stay north. To come to the desert this time of year is good, and fall, which for us is mid to late October through November into early December. That's the best time to come out here. If you really want to experience 110, 115 degrees, then come on out in the summer, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to like it. As you can tell from if you follow my videos at all, most of my videos in the summer start at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and even then, by the time I get back, it's already close to 100 degrees. So you can ride at night, but a lot of the nights, especially when you get into the humid part of the season in August, mid-July, August, all that, you can have 100 degrees at 1 a.m. and you don't have the sun blaring down on you, but it just feels like you're being baked in an oven. So it's pretty extreme. So if you're going to come out here, come out in the spring or fall, and be aware that if you're in a four-season part of the country, be aware that our spring and falls are different times than yours. So I lived in Colorado for a couple seasons, and I was really, by March here, the spring is in full blast and summer's coming. And up there, you still had snow in March and had some of their bigger storms up in the Denver area that came in March and April. So it was kind of weird not seeing the leaves back on the trees before April starts. So in fact, some of them didn't come back till June. But that was different. I enjoyed my time there. It was a different part of thing. The thing I liked about summer is it was very temperate, and the evenings were beautiful, and a little bit, you know, a lot north of Arizona, 1,000 miles north of Arizona, and it stayed light later in the day, and you could do stuff, you know, it was still daylight at 9 p.m. at night, and that was good for getting outside and doing things. And they had the best sunsets I've ever seen in Colorado, especially in the summer when a monsoon storm would blow through, and then by sunset there was nothing left but a few clouds, and just the colors of the sunset and the views over the mountains was just incredible. It just if you've never been to Colorado in the summertime, you owe it to yourself to check it out. If you live there, you know what I mean. In the winter, on the other hand, the days are very short, and it gets cold as soon as the sun goes down. So there was only a couple of months out of the year that I wasn't able to ride when I lived there. It was usually February. February seemed to always be a cold month. You'd get an occasional warm day. I mean, the first year I was there, Christmas Day was 68 degrees. Now, bear in mind that 68 degrees was for a couple hours in the afternoon. The mornings and evenings were still in the 30s or even the 20s. So, you know, if you were to get out, you had a short window to do it, unless you just like being cold. Hypothermia ain't no thing to mess with. You can even get that out here. I remember a run I went to Tucson back in the late 70s. We used to, people that I rode with always used to go down there, and we hit one night where it hit, I think, 28 degrees, and we went down at night and it about froze our asses off, and we made it down there. That we just didn't really have a lot of fun that weekend. It was just so cold the whole weekend. It was a freak storm in November. Usually November's pretty easy to deal with, but Tucson's a little higher than Phoenix, so it actually, you get snow on the outskirts down there. We didn't have snow that weekend or even rain, but it was just really cold. I mean, even the next day, I think the high temperature was about 43 degrees, so it was a 130-mile ride in really cool temperatures. And back in those days, very few of us could afford leather jackets, so we were wearing whatever we had, you know, insulated and long johns and things like that to try and stay warm, you know. But you know, it's a story to tell, you know. So that's even the bad days give you something to talk about in later years. So I'm still out here at my ripe old age trying to create new memories, new things to talk about. I just on Friday nights I do a thing, and we were all just sitting around telling old stories and laughing and having a good time, and that's a good thing. And some of those stories, they get a little, let me call it, enhanced over the years, but it's still fun to hear them. And I've been around a while in this group, and some of them will look at me and like, is that true? And I'd kind of shake my head like, sort of. You know, the basis of it is true. The details have changed to protect the innocent or the guilty or whatever. So anyway, it's just fun to do sometimes, you know. I got a riding lifetime of stories to tell, and so do the people I ride with. A couple of us old dogs were talking about riding shovelheads and doing runs, and even though we did it in different parts of the country, our stories were a lot the same, and our experiences were the same. And you know, people say, well, you're riding shovelheads, you were riding those old bikes. I said, well, no, they were new bikes then. they were a couple of years old, and they're from a different time, and it was a different experience. The bikes out now are so incredibly reliable. It's just very rarely do you break down unless you're abusing your bike or you just have some freak occurrence. With Shovelheads, there was always something to do. There was maintenance, there was frequent oil changes, there was maintenance, there was electrical issues, charging systems, poor brakes, chains wearing out. Yeah, it kept you busy. You definitely had a bond with your motorcycle because you were continually doing something with it. I mean, just things like back then, the dry clutches, you had to service the clutch every so often because they would get gunked up because the oil recirculated through the primary back into the motor, which never really seemed like a great idea to me. It would seem that, like with the newer ones, have a separate oil supply. It just, running that oil with all the contaminants through your motor just didn't seem like a great thing, which I guess, there's the horses. There's the wild horses. But running those contaminants through your motor, I'm sure shorten the life of those old air-cooled iron cylinder motors. But we kept them going. It was not uncommon out here in the heat. You pretty much had to run an oil cooler out here. And you run heavy oil, 60 and 70 weight in some cases. I ran 2050 in most of my motors and got along just fine, but a lot of guys like that old Kendall oil, which to me looked dirty coming out of the can or the bottle. We actually had cans back then, believe it or not. And but anyway, those they had just so much contaminants going in there, and the air and the oil filters that were on the earlier ones, the Shovelheads, and them were a bit of a joke, and it kept the larger rocks and flying birds out of your oil bag, but that's about it. So I read once about a guy that got 100,000 miles out of a Shovelhead without a rebuild, and that's completely unheard of. But the guy changed his oil every 1,000 miles, and he put an aftermarket filter and an oil cooler on it, and I'm sure he babied it quite a bit. But 100,000 miles. I had a new 1980, and it didn't last 6,000 miles before the motor was gone, and it was replaced under warranty. But that bike just had issues upon issues. Then I had an 81, and I got probably 25,000 miles out of the original top end, and had to do a top end on it. Still looked pretty good, but it was smoking and using oil. So yeah, I fixed that. It needed valve guides, and it needed a fresh honing and one set of oversized pistons, so fixed that. And then at 42,000 miles, the lower end was gone. So to be fair, I did run the snot out of that bike. I beat it up all the time. So I had a saying about Shovelheads was around the world at 62 miles an hour, around the block at 80. And if I've offended any of you dyed-in-the-wool iron cylinder people, I apologize, but that was just my experience. I did have an 84 that I bought brand new, and an 84 FXE, and that bike was just amazing. That I got 62,000 miles out of the original top end, which is just unheard of. And and I didn't change the oil every 1,000 miles or anything like that. But I changed the oil at 3,000, and put the new filter. It had a spin-on filter from the factory, which was in a really dumb place on the back of the frame, right in front of the rear tire, which was nearly impossible to get off without actually taking the rear wheel off, jacking it up, and taking the rear wheel off. That was the quickest way to do it. But anyway, that's about it for Shovelheads. I mean, I rode them all over the place. Rode them to Yellowstone, rode them to Sturgis 3 times, rode them to California, rode them all over the place, all over Arizona. It was not unusual for me to ride a 300-mile day at least, on some of those. And for the most part, did I never get stranded? No, I got stranded a couple times, but it all worked out. days before cell phones, you know, that was a little sketchy when you broke down, but somebody always stopped and either got you a truck or went to the next town and called somebody to have them come get you, and somebody show up with a pickup truck, you know, and we do that. But only one time did I ever have to get a tow truck, you know, but that was on my insurance, so that worked out okay. Anyway, this is Randytbird out here on a beautiful Sunday morning in Arizona. Just headed out looking at the mountains and enjoying my morning. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm still need those last subscribers, and don't forget, I'll send you a sticker if you send me your mailing information. If anybody that subscribes this week, actually until I get to 1,000 or even over 1,000, I'd be happy to do that. So, you know, I don't know if you're not into stickers, well, subscribe anyway. You know, it don't matter. Well, time for gas. I will talk to you later. This is Randytbird.